Good morning, everyone. Thomas Fleming here again. Well, I'm back under the covering. It is raining off and on. Nothing major. There's not a big front in today's rain, but it's overcast. You can kind of see the dreariness when you look outside. Look at that. So I have to stay underneath here just in case it starts raining again, because I've got my Bible out and I don't want to get it wet. I won't melt, but the Bible might. All right, well, today we're going to talk about signs, why we have them, and what some of them have been in the past, and what we've got in the future. Signs are all over the place. When we're driving on the road, what are we using to navigate? Most of the time, signs. Now, those that have the new GPS capability in their phones or have a standalone, you may not need to rely on the signs as much. I mean, mine tells me the local speed limit on my GPS, and it tells me where to turn. I don't even have to pay any attention to street signs, really, because it tells me. That can be a problem if you rely on it so much and then your phone goes out. I've had that problem. I dropped my phone a couple months ago and I broke the screen. It was still working, but I couldn't see anything on the screen because it shattered it. And I had to get to a T-Mobile store without signs that I could follow, that I knew. Anyhow, I drove probably twice as far as I needed to go to a known T-Mobile store, when there was probably one in the next town, but I didn't want to drive all over the place. Okay, so signs are there to direct us, to point to things, to help us out. A billboard is a sign advertising. All these things are out there in the real world, but God uses them too. Now we're going to look at, I'm going to start off, this is kind of a study. I'm not going to talk as much. I'm doing a little bit of talking, but there are so many verses here. I'm actually debating whether or not I'm going to go to each one and read them. I may just have you write them down and go check them out yourself. In the book of John, there are 7 distinct signs. I can't see through dirty glasses. And we know that that God has 7 spirits, essentially, 7 sides, 7 characters. And the book of John is the best for that, because out of the 4 Gospels, they each kind of point at characteristics of God. And John, or characters of Jesus, I should say. And John points out the godliness of Jesus from God's point of view. Okay. The first sign that Jesus did, he did reluctantly, but he did do it. If you remember the movie Before the Wrath, they talked about the parallel between a Jewish wedding ceremony and what goes on with the life of Jesus. I didn't get the smudge off of my glasses. Where is it? Hopefully it's there and that I'm not seeing things. Well, Jesus' first, that's got it. Jesus' first sign was turning water into wine. Where did he do that? At a Jewish wedding feast. So the very first sign is telling us what's coming. Yeah, we have a wedding feast. Now, don't jump in the conclusion that that's what we're going to do when we get raptured. We're going right into a wedding feast. We're not. The wedding feast is when all this is over in the New Jerusalem. Yes, I walked down here with coffee. It's not cold. I think it's like 50, but it's and there's no wind blowing, which is really good. But when you're seated on a cold bench, it helps to have something to keep you warm. Okay, so the first sign, I guess I will look at this one. This is in John 2:1 is where it starts. On the third day was a wedding in Cana of Galilee, Galilean wedding, before the wrath. Check out the movie. It's a good one. Kevin Sorbo narrates it. And the mother of Jesus was there. Now, both Jesus and his disciples were invited to the wedding. Pretty much, he was friends with everybody in Galilee. They all knew who he was. And when they ran out of wine, the mother of Jesus came to him and said, "They have no wine." Now, I don't know the exact Hebrew wording on this because I haven't, or Greek wording on this, because I don't know Greek that well and I haven't looked it up. But I just think this is an interesting statement. Jesus talking to his mother, "Woman, what does your concern have to do with me? My hour has not yet come." You wanted me to do a miracle. She knew he could do miracles. She's probably seen them. We just don't have documentation of it. I don't know. She knew who he was, the Son of God. The Son of hers too, but the Son of God. So she tells them they don't have any wine. Now, I don't know if she was expecting him to turn water into wine or to go get some. You know, be a good son and go buy some wine someplace and come back. Camp seems to be noisy today. We had our coyotes back again last night. 3 times I heard them. They're just roaming around. I don't know what they're looking for. No one's going to be feeding them in camp, but they keep coming into camp. Okay. It says, "My hour is not yet come." So you know the rest of the story, where he gets the bottle or the jugs of water, the barrels of water, I guess would be a better appropriate word, and he turns them into wine. And then the guests are saying, "This is pretty good that after we've been here for a long time, the host brings out the best wine." Yeah. Leave it to Jesus to give the best. Okay, so that was a sign. That's the first sign. The second sign, that was in John 2:1. The second sign is in John 4:46. So let's go ahead and turn over to there. I'm just going to do this for a little bit, and then I think I'm going to tell you what the verses are. Where is it for? Get the pages separated. I didn't mark all these because there are so many of them. 4:46. So Jesus came again to Cana of Galilee, where he had made the water into wine. And there a certain nobleman whose son was sick at Capernaum. When he heard that Jesus had come out of Judea into Galilee, he went to him and implored him to come down and heal his son, for he was at the point of death. And Jesus said to him, "Unless you people see signs and wonders, you will by no means believe." This really is the reason Jesus did all his signs, to get people to believe. Why would why would he need to do that? He's God. Well, if you have a new business opening up, you put up signs all over the place. Grand opening, sale. You want people to know about it. They don't know about it. Once they know about it and you've got a good product, they're going to come back on their own. But you've got to get their attention first. And that's kind of what Jesus does throughout his ministry, is to get everybody's attention. Okay, you birds, I see you. They're on the ground right outside my pavilion here. This one's probably 10 feet away on the ground. I don't know if I can. Where is he? There he is. 4, 5, 6. Crows are not a bad omen necessarily. They can be for good omens. Moses used one along with not Moses, but Noah used one along with the dove, and the dove is the one that brought back the olive branch. But Elijah was fed by crows, so God can use all of his creation. Okay. So where was I? Getting people's attention. Some business, I watched a business report a long time ago talking about how businesses get, customers in. And they pointed out one particular store, I don't remember what it was, furniture or something. They had a going out of business sale. Big sign up on the front of their building. It was a permanent fixture, going out of business sale. It brought people in, because if you're going out of business, you're going to sell everything cheap. They didn't know that sign was permanent, and they never went out of business. Okay, so the nobleman comes to him, and Jesus said to him, unless people see signs and wonders. Okay, the nobleman said to him, come down before my child dies. And Jesus said to him, go your way, your son lives. Jesus didn't even have to go. Now we know about the centurion later on who implored Jesus to heal his son. And Jesus says, I'll be there shortly. And the centurion says, no, you don't have to come down here. I trust you that you can order his healing without even leaving. Talking about he has people that work below him that he could send out to do tasks. Jesus could do the same thing. And Jesus said, you've got a great amount of faith. Now, this particular nobleman didn't know that. He wanted him to come. And Jesus does come. Actually, in this one, he doesn't. On this one, he does go to a couple of places and heal people. Healing is one of Jesus' signs of his being Son of God. That's why all this stuff is happening. What kind of things did he do? Lots of them. We get to that. His third sign in John. All right. His third sign in John was healing the paralytic at Bethsaida. And that's in John 5:1. I think I'm just going to give you the verses. Is feeding the 5,000 in John 6. Walking on water in John 6 as well. Well, John 6:5 is feeding the 5,000. Walking on water is John 6:16. And Peter got to walk on water too, so that was cool. We have the blind man given sight in John 9:1. And raising Lazarus. I didn't mark the page. Where was that? It's in John. I don't have the verse marked. Shame on me. Well, you get the point. That's anyway what I was trying to do with all this. Is Jesus is doing all this stuff to get people's attention. Okay. Lazarus is in John 11, where Jesus says in 25, I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me, though he may die, he shall live. And whoever lives and believes in me shall never die. Talking to Martha, he says, do you believe this? Again, these are signs to point to his deity, but we have all kinds of signs. I've talked about this before. After the flood, the sign of the covenant was a rainbow, recently cloned and, I don't want to say destroyed, but taken over by Satan. Okay, so I want to turn to John 20:30. 20:30. And truly, Jesus did many other signs in the presence of his disciples, which are not written in this book. Many signs. We often wonder what's missing. Well, sometimes it tells us. And right there it tells us. But these are written, talk about the ones that we have here from John, that you may believe in Jesus as the Christ, the Son of God, and that by believing you may have life in his name. There's the reason right there. John tells us. So we have all these signs. Now, we're in the New Testament, which is Greek, which I'm not as familiar with, but we do have in the Old Testament, the word in Hebrew is ot, ot, for signs. And it was given to warn people, to be a sign of judgment, marking covenants, to point to God, to show the power of God. We know that when the Jews, or the Israelites, traveled through the wilderness, they had a couple of pillars, one of fire and one of cloud, to mark where the tabernacle would be. That was a sign, so they would know where God was. Because we don't always pay attention. And I'm going to turn over to Matthew. I didn't mark these because I wasn't going to necessarily turn to them all, but I guess I will. Matthew 16:4. I'm going to go back to 1, just so you have the context. Then the Pharisees and the Sadducees came, and testing him, asked that he would show them a sign from heaven. And he answered and said to them, when it is evening, you say it will be fair weather, for the sky is red. You know, the old sailor rhyme too. Red, take warning, sailor at red sky at night, sailor's delight, red sky in the morning, sailor take warning. It's been a while since I've had to say that as a sailor. But that tells you there's a storm coming, or not. It will be foul weather today, for the sky is red and threatening. Hypocrites, you know how to discern the face of the sky, but you cannot discern the signs of the times. There are multiple verses in the Old Testament that point ahead to Jesus. We have a psalm that describes what it was like to be crucified. They didn't get any of this stuff. And it continues on in 4. A wicked and adulterous generation seeks after a sign, and no sign will be given to it except the sign of the prophet Jonah. And he left them and departed. Jonah was in the belly of the whale for 3 days, and then he came out. Jesus alluding to his death and resurrection. But they didn't get that again. That's why he called them, the scribes and the Pharisees, he called them, or the Sadducees, he called them whitewashed sepulchres, is the word that was used, but it's tombs. Pretty on the outside and dead on the inside. And we're going to go to Matthew 24. Again, I don't have it marked. Okay, Matthew 24. And so this is part of the Olivet Discourse, talking about the future. Take heed that no one deceives you, for many will come in my name, saying, I am the Christ, and will deceive many. And you will hear of wars and rumors of wars. Signs. That's what these are about. See that you are not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, ethnos against ethnos, ethnic groups fighting each other. And there will be famines and pestilence and earthquakes in various places. Boy, we're getting those. And all these are the beginning of sorrows. Sorrows referencing birth pains. And then it goes on to say that they will deliver them. But those are the signs of what's coming. And finally, the greatest sign of where we're at, Revelation 12. Now a great sign appeared in the heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and under her head a garland of 12 stars. And being with child, she cried out in labor and in pain to give birth. And another sign appeared in heaven. Behold, a great fiery red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 diadems on his head. His tail drew 1/3 of the stars of heaven and threw them to earth. And the dragon stood before the woman who was ready to give birth, to devour the child as soon as she was born. And she bore a male child who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. This is one of those parallel, dual scriptures. This is not talking strictly about Jesus, because Jesus is going to come and rule all nations with the rod of iron. But this is prophetic. This is in John pointing forward. This is written at the end of John's life, after the destruction of Jerusalem. This is future, not talking about Jesus' life. When he comes back to rule with an iron fist, who's he bringing back with him? Us. So the child being born is us, the Christians of the world that are going to be born and brought into the fold. We're adopted. And Satan's going to try to come and kill us. And the child, continuing on, and the child was caught up to God in his throne. There's our rapture. Caught up, harpazo. So that's the big sign that we have coming. We want to see Jesus come back. Well, he is coming back. But we still have work to do. But we can see now even more things are happening. All these signs are pointing to God, pointing to the things that are coming. God wants us to be aware, so one, we're not going to be frightened. He also wants us to be aware to let us know the importance of getting out. I was listening to a report on churches, and they said that out of all the churches, the quote Christian churches, and they didn't get into specific denominations, they said that probably less than 10% of the people that go to church get out and evangelize. That's not a very good number. We need to warn the world that the world is coming to an end. Their lives, their eternal lives are in danger. And only 10% go out. That's a sad number. If you're part of the 10%, thank you, God thanks you. You do have a reward in heaven for doing that. There are crowns for saving souls. There is a crown for saving souls. There are multiple crowns that we're going to get when we get to heaven. Just being a survivor and making it, you will get at least one crown. Saving souls, that's another crown. Out of all the crowns that you get, I think that one would be the best one that you should cherish and want. So get out there and help people. And you don't have to see them saved right there on the spot. It's not your job to save people anyway. It's the Spirit's job. Your job is to take the word and spread it around the world. But we're not going to do a good job covering it, because there's going to in these end times, there's going to be an angel come out and help spread the word, because we're not doing a good enough job. He wants to make sure that everybody hears. So come on, we don't have a whole lot of time left. Get out there. You say, I'm afraid to, or I don't have time. When do you not have time to talk to people? You can simply just wish somebody a blessed day. If they ignore it and go on, you do the same. But if you keep, if you go into the market and you see a clerk, every time you go to the market, and you go to the market once a week, you've got a lot of times that you can say, have a blessed day. I hope you're okay. I hope God is taking care of you. Whatever you want to say, you only have to say a little phrase as you're going off, as you're going goodbye. They all say goodbye. Thank you for shopping. They're trained to say that. They're told to did you find everything? They all say the same thing because they're trained to. But you can always tell them something about God on the way out. They may say something back. They may come back with, I don't know a whole lot about God, but have a blessed day. They don't know anything, they're just copying you. The next time in, bring them a tract. You don't want to be preaching to them right there in the line, holding it up the line, and all the people in the line getting mad at you. You don't want to be doing that. You're planting seeds. You've got people at work. Someone's sitting across from you, perhaps, or in the same room, in the same office. You're going to see people all over the place. If you're in sales, you don't necessarily want to go out and disrupt your sales with preaching, if you will. But again, you do the same thing. If you're constantly going to these people, you have a blessed day. If they don't want to know anymore, go on. They will eventually get to that point. Everybody's life will take them to the gutter if that's what it takes to get them to turn to God. If they know they can trust you, if they feel you are sincere, they may come up and say, who is this God you keep talking about? And a lot of people we're just going to see once and never see again. Plant seeds. Somebody else can till the ground. Somebody else can water those seeds. So you can get an assist. A little basketball term there, I guess. You don't have to be the primary person getting a 30-pointer. You can pass it to somebody and they can dunk it. Again, the Spirit's going to do the heavy work. The Spirit's going to work on their heart. All right. I wish I could say that the rapture was this weekend or something along that line. I can't. We don't know. But we're seeing things get worse. I think we're getting close to we're over 40,000 dead in the turkey quake now, as I'm talking. I'm about 2 days ahead of schedule on my videos, so things could happen that I don't catch right. This is moving week, so I've got to be ahead. But I told you a few videos ago that we were probably going to reach 50,000. The government tries not to bring those numbers up until it's inevitable. You can't really hide it. but I was listening to different reporters describing how bad the towns are. There was one town that had no buildings collapse. And the builder built all the buildings to code properly, and they didn't collapse. All the other buildings that collapsed, the builders cheated. They used inferior materials and didn't build them to code. That's why they arrested, I think it was like 130 contractors, builders, because they didn't build to code. Human greed caused, 30 to 40,000 anyway out of that. I don't know if you can completely blame all the deaths on them, but a lot of people died because of them. They need to be taken out and shot, and they will probably be that. We're seeing the wars and rumors of wars ratchet up a little bit, continuing to grow. Things are still falling into place, but at any moment it could trigger. We keep saying, what is the trigger? We don't know. We're not supposed to know. We're supposed to be working. If you're working, you don't have time to look around a lot. Unless you're a tour guide, you can look around and point to things. And that's kind of what we're doing. We've got to tell people about God as we travel around. Don't be frightened. Russia now is supposedly sending out its fleets and its aircraft that are not only nuclear capable, but in some cases I think that they've said that they're actually carrying nukes. They're basically putting forth a bold foot, saying, we're going to kick you if you come after us. They haven't used them yet, but they have them. And they have more nuclear weapons than any other country in the world. We used to be at a parity until our government decided to work for Satan and started getting rid of all of our nukes. There was nothing wrong with stockpiling them, because that means that we could keep Russia at parity, but now we can't, because they have far more than we do. If they launch everything they've got, and we launched everything we've got, we'd be destroyed. Russia wouldn't be. Not completely. Nukes don't take out countries. Got to understand that. Even the ones that were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki were ones that took out a city area. And basically, the buildings of the whole city were taken out because these were relatively small cities. Los Angeles or New York, they're big cities. It would take multiple nukes to destroy them. But they have them. When are we getting out of here? Possibly 3 seconds before detonation. So there's no way you're going to be prepared for it. Tell people about God. That's our job. Here comes a car into the parking area. You can hear the water underneath the tires. I don't know where they're going to go. It's going to be wet. All right. Have a blessed day, everyone. Keep spreading the word. That's all we got to do. God bless.